Good afternoon. Welcome to the Council Committee of the Whole meeting of January 14th, 2026. I'd like to call this meeting to order and take the opportunity to read our land acknowledgement. The city respectfully acknowledges that Beaver, Cree, Dene, and Métis peoples as the original caretakers of these lands and surrounding areas. We are grateful to live, learn, work, and play on Treaty 8 territory within Turtle Island and acknowledge that these lands have been home to diverse and sovereign First Nations and Inuit nations since time immemorial. Thank you for that opportunity. Moving to item number 3 under reports, one item of business today, item 3.1, 132nd Avenue and 116th Street, preliminary intersection design. And I will turn this one over to Chief Glavin for introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Today we have McElhaney with us. McElhaney has been retained to prepare the preliminary design for 132nd Avenue and 116th Street intersection. They've assessed 3 different concepts with the recommended option of a roundabout. Council doesn't need to take any action today for admin to proceed with this course of action. Admin is bringing it forward as a roundabout is a design that we haven't implemented on an arterial road before in the city and wanted to bring it forward for confirmation that met council's expectations for our arterial road network before we proceeded with final design. If council did want us to deviate from that, the option would be to have us proceed with design of a signalized intersection at 132nd. With that, I'm going to turn over to Logan Hall, and he's going to introduce himself and his team.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Brian, like Brian said.
And sorry, you can just move. It's not attached to the table, so feel free to pull it closer and adjust it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I'm Logan Hall, Engineering Division Manager for McElhaney here in Grande Prairie. I am also the project manager for the 132 Ave and 116th Street twinning project. Here today, I have Andy Heath to my far right, Division Manager for Infrastructure and Transportation, who is also our geometric design expert. We also have Jarrett Zielinski, Division Manager for Traffic and Transportation and Planning. So today in our presentation, we will give a brief introduction of the twinning project and overall concept plan. We will discuss the 132 Ave, 116th Street intersection upgrade options and evaluations, and we'll identify some of the next steps. So I'll hand it over to Jarrett.
Awesome. Thank you, Logan. So first, talking about the overall objectives for the project. So the overall point is to improve corridor safety and operations, recognizing that traffic is growing in the region and there's lots of development that is expected in the future. Addressing both current and future capacity needs. We were tasked with doing a preliminary design for the twinning as well as developing intersection options for, this one we'll be talking about in specific. And also looking at some potential for staging, how we can maybe build this out in sections, and you'll see on the next slide, fairly large in scope. So on the top there, you see the 132 Ave and 116th Street starred. That's the intersection. Looking at twinning to the east, connecting to the already twin section down close to 102 Street. And then working south down to 100th Ave, and then there is also a second section that is further south. Today we'll be focusing where that star is. That is kind of the first drop to fall, the first bucket we need to fill, and then progressing from there. Overall, like I just mentioned, it's kind of split up into those 3 segments. The reason we're talking about this intersection is this is where the largest capacity constraint is, recognizing that there is certainly some capacity constraints along 116 and traffic is growing. So looking at twinning all of these, and along with that, we do need to make some fairly significant intersection upgrades. With that, I'll pass it to Andy, who will talk about some of the options that we are considering for the intersection.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. You can hear me okay?
You bet.
Okay, great. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all this morning or this afternoon. In evaluating the alternatives at the intersection of 132nd Avenue and 116th Street, we explored 2 alternatives, one being a signalized intersection and then a roundabout as well. In evaluating intersection alternatives, Alberta Transportation actually requires all consultants to explore dual lane roundabouts. That's in the central region of of Alberta. McElhaney has had the opportunity to build a couple of dual lane roundabouts in the last couple of years, so they've been successful. The design bulletin of 68, which is in Alberta Transportation's portfolio, actually states that a roundabout must be disproved as and not the preferred solution. So they want us to always start, whenever evaluating an intersection upgrade, they want us to start at a roundabout initially and disprove that it's not the optimal solution. And then we work backwards and do the analysis of a signalized intersection as well. Actually, at the proposal stage of this assignment, McElhaney, we recognize that the existing bridge, so just to the east of 116th along 132nd, would need to be fully upgraded with the development of an at-grade signalized intersection. You can see that in the third option, option 3, where if we were to upgrade the intersection fully for 2 lanes in each direction and dual left turn lanes, be quite a large area. And in blue there it would be the requirement to upgrade the existing bridge that's maintained right now for about 2 lanes of traffic. And then twin it on the south as well. So it'd be a large bridge upgrade on option 3. Really, when we looked at the proposal, we looked at the alternative of a roundabout right off the bat because we could salvage the existing bridge on 132nd Avenue with the two lanes going westbound into the roundabout. And then in the shaded blue area to the south, we would require a twin bridge alternative, but we really looked at that as an advantage to the roundabout right off the bat, salvaging the existing bridge. Not oftentimes you have a creek that is so close to an arterial road as this is the case, and there's environmental constraints along this area. We developed a roundabout solution to allow the existing bridge to remain in place to accommodate the 2 lanes westbound. Option 2 then in the middle shows a full at-grade intersection moved enough westward to also salvage the existing bridge to accommodate the 2 westbound lanes and a portion of the 2 left turn lanes, the westbound to southbound movement as well. But again, pushing in option 2, pushing the at-grade intersection further west would require a lot of additional 4-laning of the roadway to tie it back into the existing alignment along 116th. Next slide. Thank you. So why a roundabout? You often hear traffic circle is synonymous with roundabout, but in the last, I would say the last 10 years, a modern roundabout is specifically designed for a location. And a traffic circle is more or less, placing a circle at the intersection and not looking into all of the egress and the ingress movements in and out. So a modern roundabout is a unique design, and if chosen as the preferred alternative at this location, it would be specifically designed to accommodate the traffic numbers, the turning movements in the vehicles in and around the area, the predominant movements, and the location. So some of the constraints on the environmental side, the cuts and fills, and balancing all of those. You might have heard, the public perception up front on a roundabout, 90% are apprehensive up front, I would say. But after construction, that usually flips to 90% approval after people have had the chance to navigate the roundabout and whatnot. Again, it's specific to the location, so if we do our job right, we'll do it in such a way that it'll be specific to the needs of that location. Typically, modern roundabouts are smaller, the smaller radius or smaller circle than compared to a traffic circle. Really, roundabout's about safety. It's a yield situation, improved sight lines coming in and out of the intersection, constant movement of traffic, constant flow of traffic. There are some misnomers about pedestrian safety in and around a roundabout, but it is actually safer as there's opportunities for more refuge. The splitter islands that are created in advance of the roundabout give the opportunity for refuge for pedestrians to make good decisions and shorter distances to have to cross. Sometimes there's more accidents up front, but they're minor in nature. compared to situations where you've got a lot of turning vehicles, T-bone opportunities and possibilities with signalized intersections. In this case, at this location, the northbound to eastbound right turn lane, right turn movement, and the westbound to southbound left turn movement are the heaviest. Whenever you have the heaviest movement being a left turn and you need the opportunity for dual lanes, a dual lane roundabout would accommodate a safer opportunity for turning traffic, making that left around the circle. Some other things about roundabouts. The design of a roundabout is based on the central island. So it gives opportunity. So in the picture here, this is the one in Sylvan Lake that we just constructed last year, dual lanes. We work from inside out, so you work from the central island outwards. So it gives opportunity for phasing. You build the central island first, and if you only need one lane around that for the interim for 10, 15 years, then you build the one lane and you can make all the connections. If you do in fact need multi-lanes where you need dual lanes right up front, you can do that as well. So there's opportunities for good phasing, which we'll get into in a little bit. One of the differences for roundabout being a safe opportunity, you're maintaining about a 30 to 35 kilometers an hour, and that's the design speeds. We do performance checks, which is like a fastest path analysis of all movements. So if you're making a right, if you're going straight through, or you're making a left, which you go around, we ensure that you're in that range of about 30 to 35 kilometers an hour. With the traffic circle, sometimes when they're not designed properly, you can have excess of 40 to 45 kilometers an hour, which is just not a really good situation when you're wanting people to yield to the vehicles in the central island. Some of the other purposes: improve traffic flow, so keeping the traffic flowing consistently, reducing crashes. So reducing the severity of crashes is the optimal. Reducing traffic delays. In a perfect situation, all legs of a roundabout have about the same amount of traffic in it. If you've got a predominant movement and that is twice as much traffic, then the other legs are waiting to enter into the roundabout. In this situation, there's a good balance of traffic between 116 and 132nd, so it makes it a good opportunity. You save fuel and lower emissions from the stopping and starting and all the delays that are associated. And as I mentioned, safety of pedestrians and cyclists, and eliminating the traffic signals and future operating costs as well. One of the keys to designing them properly is the approach and entry curves, providing the good sight lines and ensuring that vehicles are oriented when they're wanting to yield into the traffic circle, into the circulatory lanes, of the roundabout. They're situated properly with the right angles. I believe I've mentioned everything here. So the smoothness factors as well. So given the opportunity here on a larger area, we can optimize the curvilinear geometry coming in and out, with the goal again 30 kilometers coming in, and then getting traffic out as fast as possible in the 40 to 50 range as well. So turn it back over to you, Jared.
All right, thank you, Andy. The only thing I was going to add before I get into some of the options evaluation was design vehicle. So roundabouts are able to accommodate trucks. Sometimes that is a perception that it can't be done, but you'll see with the colored concrete in this specific example, those allow for as big as farm vehicles. With this one, we specifically ran like combines with large headers that aren't even street legal, just to double check kind of all of these different combinations, as well as hauling vehicles and oversized loads, things like that. So that's definitely something we can accommodate, and especially with a dual lane, there's ample space to make those accommodations. Okay, so like Andy mentioned, we looked at a roundabout, but we didn't want to just run forward with a roundabout unless we did a real proper analysis of all the different options that were available. So we always start with qualitative. So we're looking at safety, we're looking at traffic operations, we're looking at some of the things that might not be able to put an empirical number to, but definitely have value. Big one for that one is the traffic operations. So like Andy mentioned, a roundabout's really good when you have a cross leg that has a similar amount of traffic. In this case, north-south is quite busy, as well as the east leg. Ultimately, once development occurs, that west leg will also start to grow. The big downside of the signalized intersection is that it's a westbound left movement. Left movements have to stop at the light. They have to wait for their traffic signal to turn green. With duals, it has to be protected, which means that only those cars are moving for 15, 20 seconds. That slows, that north-south traffic is stuck. Everyone is stuck at the intersection until those vehicles make it through. When we ran some of the traffic numbers, we see quite significant growth in this area of people using it to get around the community. So while a signalized intersection will function into the medium term, as you get into the long term, you're going to start to see some operational delays that are fairly significant. With the roundabout, you have this dual lane where lots of people are moving. There's usually enough gaps from what we see, even with that north-south traffic growing straight through the intersection, enough gaps, especially with two lanes, to give you a full development design life. So that would be development of all those empty quarter sections that are currently designed there. And when we ran the traffic numbers, we did an ultimate horizon. So this design considers that ultimate horizon, which is, I think, over 6 quarter sections that are developing. So it is a very significant amount of traffic. We don't know exactly what years those development will happen, of course, but we wanted to make sure that we future-proof this area so that whether we stage it now or we're ready for it in the future, as Andy mentioned, that if we do choose a roundabout, that the center of the circle is in the right spot for future expansion if needed. Next, we're looking at safety. Big safety advantage of roundabouts is that you can't have right angle collisions. And if you do, they're more side swipes. So that reduces the severity of people are no longer losing life or injury at an intersection. You might have bumps and bruises. You might have some rear end collisions, exactly the same as a signalized intersection. So you're removing those severe collisions and overall reducing the severity. One other option we were considering, or another part of it, is the environmental considerations. So the further you move west, there's wetlands in the northwest and the southwest corner, both with more land acquisition and more environmental impacts. Same thing, you're reducing the amount of developable area that is available to build homes, commercial, industrial areas, et cetera. So we certainly wanted to look to preserve as much of that existing right away as possible. And then the final thing being, I mentioned that the signalized intersection could fail kind of in that long-term horizon. It's very difficult to stage that signalized intersection. You would need those 2 left turns right away. As soon as you build the intersection, which means you need 2 receiving lanes for them, which means you need to twin the bridge to allow for all those lanes to fit. With the roundabout, you have a little bit more options, whether it's dual lane and you tie back right away back to 2 lanes until the next sections proceed, whether you only build certain legs to certain distances. It gives you a lot more opportunity to stage it in whatever time frame or whatever budget is available to the city. So ultimately, we came out with that. I think it's in your package in the council report, but the roundabout ended up winning in the qualitative scoring. We went through a few iterations, went back and forth with administration to confirm those numbers, and ultimately it did win out. When we're looking at the 2 signalized intersections, even though the existing is more expensive because of that bridge impact that Andy mentioned, it is still a better option on the qualitative side. So now we're seeing, okay, we can't quite decide between the signalized, but we know the roundabout's better qualitative. So now we move on to quantitative. So here we are looking at quantitative. This is the first time I think some of you have seen these. For the earthworks, for the most part, we're seeing it's very similar. What we're looking at is still building a twinned road, whether you have additional lanes or a roundabout, you're looking at a very similar amount of earthworks. As you move further and further west, there would be more and more fills to fill in that wetland, as well as wetland compensation. So the environmental impacts, the further you move west, the more expensive it is on the earthworks and environmental side. On the structural side, the existing alignment is by far the most expensive. As Andy mentioned, you're not able to salvage that bridge option, that existing bridge. It would require upgrades to that bridge as well as a twin bridge. So that has a significant impact. You can see it's about 4 times the cost of just in expanding the existing structure. For electrical, it's not too much of a difference. Roundabouts need illumination to make sure that people can see at all times of day. Similarly, so does a signalized intersection, but what you do have with the signal is additional signal infrastructure, as well as ongoing maintenance with the signal, and potentially if you were to stage or change timings and things like that as the city grows, there's definitely more maintenance involved with that. And then I mentioned the right-of-way and wetland. Just jumping back, I skipped asphalt and concrete. Same thing, they actually work out to be quite similar. Andy mentioned that northbound right movement, the northbound to eastbound movement is quite heavy as well. So you were looking at, some people call them pork chop islands or channelized turn bays, which adds concrete value, and that also gives you the spot to put your signal infrastructure, your signal poles. So when you get down to everything in the asphalt and concrete, it also ends up being quite similar. We did also look at, we're presenting the top 3 options, but we did look at other options that were available, moving further west, moving north, south, east, and this is what we found were the 3 most feasible options that were addressing the needs of the community. Finally, looking at the cost. So this is order of magnitude costings. We are looking at, this is the ultimate build out of you can see 300 meters in each direction on the east and west, and 800 meters in each direction on the north and south. So this is not the complete twinning project, but this would tie back, I guess, 2/4 sections in each direction to provide the twinning and roundabout. You're looking at approximately 19 plus engineering fees. And then when you look at the signalized, because you have that huge increase in bridge costs, you're looking at almost double the price. If you move, what we don't have shown here, but can be made available, is the west alignment is cheaper than the existing alignment for the signalized intersection because you get that bridge savings. So it's about $10 million less. But we're still looking at it shakes out to be more than, it's about 1.25 the cost of the roundabout. So those options are fairly comparable, but there's significantly more impact to the wetlands with that west alignment. Finally, next steps. So that's the options evaluation. Certainly welcome questions at the end of our presentation here about that process. But next we will complete the preliminary design and staging plan. We will look at staging of the roundabout or the signalized option, whatever we select. With the stage 1 of the roundabout, we haven't shown it on the slides here, but we do have a reduced cost that has a smaller project limits. Once we started looking at, okay, maybe the roundabout is the best option, we wanted to look at something that wasn't that high of a dollar amount. So we've looked at stage 1 of the roundabout, which has a smaller construction limit. It's not going as far north and south since that would be excessive. And it brings the cost down to about 12 million. So that would be the stage 1 impacts. Now for next steps, we would, after this meeting and your decisions with administration, we would proceed with the design of this intersection and start building out the twinning, going east and going south from this. We have lots of that work ready to go so that we can proceed immediately once we've decided here. This one just makes a big difference so that we know how we tie in with those extra lanes that will be built. Stakeholder engagement. So we certainly recognize that there's been ongoing communication with utility owners. We will continue to do that as we identify utilities that may need to be moved, may need to be relocated, or new agreements in place. We are looking at either a public open house or public messaging, whether it be a package that's available on the website or an open invite for people to come in and share their thoughts, as well as circulating everything through all city departments, not just the group we're working with, but kind of expanding that to whether it be environmental folks, transit folks, et cetera, so that we have all considerations, including emergency services and things like that, to make sure that they have their comments on the design. After that, which is not within our scope, would be the detailed design of this intersection and the twinning study. So whether that was extended on a section-by-section basis, or if it goes out for everything to be designed, that would be the following phase. And obviously after that would be design, or would be construction, or tender and construction. So with that, I think we have wrapped up. If there's any questions from council, we are happy to provide answers.
Well, thank you for that presentation. I will open the queue up for questions from council. First recognizing Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clayton. So 2 things. When I looked at the report, I just looked at the graphics right off the bat. Love the traffic circle idea. reading the report, it was validating. So I love the traffic circle idea. Because one of the big concerns that I had was with an intersection. You'd mentioned T-bone, and I know at some point in the future, if we had that set up, somebody would end up in the creek, and that's all bad. So I'm glad that the traffic circle is the front runner. Can I get the mock-ups on the computer? I just want to reference something in one of the illustrations.
The three options?
Yeah.
There was a slide too on the state.
Yeah, so this is exactly it. So which is the existing bridge? Is it the south bridge or the north bridge on that?
North side.
So that's the existing one?
Correct. Yeah, it's just outlined in blue versus hatched in blue there.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I wanted to as well. Is if the existing one is north, then that means we're developing on the south side, which is bare farmland. So I'm looking at cost to the city to acquire land. I would suspect it'll be more affordable to acquire farmland than golf course land. So I'd love to see that future twin go on the south side of the road. So if we set that up from the beginning, then great. And if you've done that, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. Thanks, guys, for coming in and going through a little bit more detail on the why for the roundabout. Definitely a big fan of the roundabout, as the same reasons as Councillor Berg. I just want to confirm, so the 21.8 million-ish includes all the intersection improvements, and then you had mentioned it was 300 meters double-twinned east and west and 800 meters north-south. Was that correct?
Yeah, through the mayor to Councillor Platt. I think I made a mistake. It's 150 meters east and west and 800 meters north and south. The west leg being the lowest priority right now, so it wouldn't extend very far, tie back to the existing road section right away. The east, we would expect that twinning would probably be earlier in the horizon, so it extends a little bit, essentially making sure you get all the way past the bridge so you don't have to touch that bridge structure again, and then you twin from there.
Gotcha, that makes sense. I'm just curious, one of the things that really appeals to me about it is just the potential for the least amount of traffic interruptions. So can you just speak to how you could stage out, like what are we going to be looking at for traffic interruptions when this gets built out, like in a hypothetical scenario? What's the goal of how long we'd have to close certain lanes in certain parts of this road?
Through the mayor to Council Platt. Generally, what we see is that the signalized intersection, we generally define intersection operations in A, B, C, D, E, F, level of service A, B, C, D, E, F. In urban areas, in developed cities, around a D is what is acceptable. So D is looking at maybe 30 seconds of delay at the intersection, give or take. There's different parameters for different communities. But that's kind of where the press, like the breaking point is of like, okay, now you're starting to wait 2 signal cycles, maybe even 3, and that's where it no longer makes sense.
Sorry, my apologies. I meant more of during construction, like if we're going to build this out. For traffic interruptions on that level versus the other 2 build-out options.
Yeah, I'll start and then I'll move it over to Andy. But one really great part about a roundabout is essentially you operate it as a 2-lane intersection while you're constructing it. You build left side, you build right side. So you're able to route traffic all the way around. And then once you will probably have to build a little bit of a detour road, but definitely recognizing this is a major area and there's not a lot of other options, that would be a major consideration of the detailed design. One hard part, again, with the signalized intersection is you're kind of still stuck because you don't have any sort of traffic control available to you while you're taking that signal down. So it can be a little bit trickier. Sometimes it requires more wasted infrastructure for the detour. But Andy, do you have any other comments?
Yeah, I was just going to say the way it was situated, the proposed roundabout to the west of the existing lanes along 116th, we're able to have a contractor work outside of the lanes of traffic, so maintaining all lanes of traffic and then putting them on. So we're talking a couple of weeks of transition period so in essence, keeping everyone on the same alignment during the 90% of the construction of the roundabout, and then switching everyone over with temporary pavement connections and all that. So minimal amount of disruption to existing lanes of traffic during construction.
Oh, perfect. That's good to know. It's basically an artery on that side of town. So thank you.
Absolutely.
I'll back in the queue. Thanks.
O'Connor. You're just muted, Councillor O'Connor.
Yeah, it's trying to flip the. Sorry about that. I really like the idea of the roundabout. I really like the science going into it. My concern is when would the one lake, we're not talking about adding any lanes from the east to the west, yet where the bridge is, that comes later, right?
Yes.
Yeah, short answer, yes.
Okay. Now, what would the impact later on by the golf course and JP2? That's all designed later on to allow access. There probably have to be lights or something going in those two sections, correct?
Yeah, through the
Yes,
mayor
it's
to
later.
Councillor O'Connor. Yeah, the northeast quarter section has area structure plan that has been approved by administration and council that has a redevelopment of that entire quarter section. It does have impacts to the golf course, but we have considered the new intersections as part of the twinning design. I know we're mostly focused on the intersection, but as part of the twinning design, we've looked at every intersection along that entire corridor. So there is consolidation of that where that existing intersection is for the golf course. It moves just a few meters east and it becomes a proper roadway throughout that quarter section. So that would be, yes, you're looking at signals at several other intersections. There's many other intersections along the twinning that would require this, but it's ones where you're getting out of a neighborhood, so you have a much more predominant leg that is, needs much more priority on the traffic signal. So the signal operates much better at those locations, if that answers your question.
Okay, thank you. And now, what is the lifespan of the north existing bridge? Is that, would we have to do anything to that, the north side of the bridge?
Go ahead.
So from a roundabout perspective, there still needs to be some upgrades to that bridge. There is still some impacts, but I believe there was just recently work done and it is salvageable. For general bridge structure, building anything is approximately a 75-year design life for any structural component. This one, likely there's been some rehab work, and while they are doing the expansions that are required as part of the project, would also look at that design life. Minimum for anything that we're constructing as part of an intersection design life, we're looking at least 25 years.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. I like the idea of the roundabout. That's a very busy road, and the biggest concern I got is you got to stop. And when some of that stuff is oil field, heavy equipment, it's hard on the truck and it's hard on the people behind them. So I like that. My concern is how long would it take to start to finish be completed? Do you think? I know you're not the builders, you're the designers, but what is your history on how long it should take?
Sure, I can answer that one. We have had, so the example that we shared in Sylvan Lake, dual lane roundabout.
Yeah, I was there once last year.
Okay, yeah, that only took one summer for the road contractor to finish, from start to finish. We did have to build a detour road around that, so that took about 3 to 4 weeks to build that detour road, and then we're able to get traffic off of the area where the roundabout was to be situated. So they did that all in one summer with a detour road, decommissioned the detour road the next year. So in this case, we wouldn't have to have a detour road because we could keep everyone on the existing. So I would say you get a great road contractor in there with a clean tender. You can get it done in one summer. It would be a lot of work in one summer to do. It's a wide area, but the predominant majority of it could get done in one summer.
Just adding on to that, the road section is, like Andy said, definitely achievable in a year. Lots of roundabouts are being built in a single season. The trick is timing the bridge with environmental restrictions. Mm-hmm. So it really depends how quickly we can move forward from here, how quickly we can get those approvals in place. This is often when you're waiting for Alberta environment approvals, it can be 4 to 8 months. But if we're able to get those in early enough, that next construction season or whatever construction season is selected for this project, as long as it's designed and ready to go kind of before that winter months, usually that allows you enough lead time to be able to issue it in the winter for tender and build it in a single season.
Do you feel there's any concerns going over that muskeg?
So generally, all the grade we're looking at for all the center line is increasing. So we're moving the road up, whether it's the roundabout or the existing alignment or signalized intersection. So that helps a lot. You're able to, I think we've completed a geotech report, and they think we can bridge that. You provide a nice solid layer on top and build up. Certainly would be a bigger and bigger concern the further you move west, because now you have the entire road on a muskeg. But with that roundabout, what it allows you to do is deflect as late as possible as you approach the intersection. That creates a little bit of a greater entry angle to slow people down, but it also helps you stay on that existing alignment where things have been consolidated and settling for years.
Okay, well, thank you very much for answering my questions and settling my stomach on concerns. You got to do something with the money-wise, though. That's a lot of money. We'll be all picking bottles here to pay for that thing, but thank you for being here.
Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clayton, and thanks for the work that you gentlemen put into this. Really appreciate it. Yeah, this council has been looking at this road, at least for the last year, as part of and added to our transportation master plan. I'm sure you're all well aware. My question actually, some of my questions have already been asked, but my last question on my list here is in regards to staging that you gentlemen talked about. Now, I was trying to figure out in my head if for that $19 million, like that's the full build out with the 2 lanes. Am I correct?
That's ultimate.
Yeah, that's ultimate. So when you're talking about staging, were you talking about just doing 1 lane of the roundabout and then adding a 2nd lane after, or were you talking about the full build out 2 lanes and then maybe in 50 years when we expand, adding a 3rd lane to that roundabout?
I can take that one through the mayor to Councillor Thiessen. Oh, there we go. We have our magic extra slide now.
Yeah, I love it. There we go.
So that is the phase 1. So it's 2 circulatory lanes still. But what it does is it ties back much closer to the intersection, back to that single lane in each direction on the 116th Street and 132nd Ave. So it basically cuts your footprint down in half. It still has 2 approach lanes in all directions, but let's say on that westbound movement, there's people backed up. They may end up back in 1 lane if they go far enough back. So there's a little bit of delay there, but at least gives you 2 lanes approaching the roundabout, 2 lanes all the way around the roundabout. And then as you travel south, I think in this one, it's about 300 meters in each direction or 250. Then you're merging back into a single lane. So it really depends on how much development progresses, especially as you move south and north. There's not that many intersections currently until development progresses. So that extra 2nd lane, while you might need a little bit of an extension from the south moving north to get people past 104th Ave, I think it is. If you were able to get them past there, then that single lane is often we talk about continuous flow, even when you're talking about a twinning design, is the single lane might be enough to take traffic, but if someone parks on the shoulder, now everyone's slowed down for eternity. But if you have that 2nd lane, then people can travel. So really, you're waiting for development on some of the twinning portion, but yes, the phase 1, which is 12 million. And I guess I did mention, talking to Councillor O'Toole, there is a 40% contingency in that design because we're not far enough along to be 100% confident in every line item. But yes, 2 lanes in the roundabout, 2 lanes approaching, tying back to 1 lane as soon as possible.
Now, just a question on you said based off of development. Now, if administration and council decided to fully build it out and be ready and just say, hey, development come, here's your road, that'd be great. I would pay the $19 million. What's the difference in time to factor out the development going there, just as an engineering, traffic flows and stuff like that, when we might need to fully build out that roundabout?
So you're asking the question, if all development goes right now, would you need it right away?
No, I'm saying if, let's say, no development goes and we decide to stage it.
I see.
Let's say, well, we don't think development's going to happen for 5 years. So then we decide to stage it. And then how soon before development starts? Because sometimes, and a lot of times, municipalities, we start building after the fact, right? And then, you have that awkward 6 months to a year period of time where traffic tries to find its way through construction. So ultimately, like with or without development, what's our growth or time horizon, I guess?
Okay. Through the mayor to Councillor Thiessen, for your existing intersection, your I would say moderate delays. So there is delays, but it would be what we would consider fairly typical of an urban area. Now, recognizing that we expect a better level of service in Grande Prairie, I think is a realistic perception by residents. This is a city on the smaller side, so you expect a little bit more or less delays overall. So the existing intersection is, I'll say, okay, medium, moderate. If any of the development goes, any growth happens, you're going to start to see some significant delays. So I would say the timeline to do something is quite short. Now, a dual lane roundabout essentially gives you infinite design life, or at least full build out. So we looked at the more than 25 years, all the development, even some additional development to the north, as well as a 2% growth in the city on background volumes. That 2-lane roundabout still functions. With the staged option, your intersection has immediately its ultimate life because you still have the 2 circulatory lanes, you still have the 2 approach lanes. You just might start to see a little bit more delays with the sections that are not yet twinned. So specifically on 116th Street, if there is that accident, if you stage it and then a kilometer to the south there's an accident, that's where you might start to see, okay, now you're seeing delays. But in general, until you add new intersections, that flow from a capacity perspective is fairly reasonable. I'll say for 5 to 10 years, unless development occurs. As soon as you add intersections at any of that location, you're going to start to see significant delays because you're adding a signal or people can't get out of their neighborhoods. You're looking at turn bays, and now you're building turn bays on a single lane road that you're going to twin later. So that's where you start to see some of that.
We could get awkward.
Yeah, that's where it gets awkward. But the benefit is as development progresses, theoretically, they're also contributing to an offsite levy fund that would support infrastructure around this area. So whether you're spending the money up front and being reimbursed through development fees and things like that, each community chooses to handle that a little bit differently.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just my thoughts on that is there's also a cost factor that we're not taking into account. So let's say we only build it to the $12 million spec instead of the $19 million full build out. That leaves $7 million room. And the way asphalt has been growing in price over the years, just the last 5 years. So let's say it's only 5 years. We could be doubling up the remainder of that cost, plus the extra staging costs, according to what you're saying, by getting extra turn bays and other stuff like that. We could be looking, just by only doing it 3/4 of the way, probably adding another $10 million to the project in about 5 to 10 years. Correct?
Inflation is a real thing. Yep. It will be more expensive every year. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm just going to jump in the queue before I go to round 2 from some of my colleagues. Can you tell me, when you factor in that growth and potential demand, what consideration was given to the build out of 40X?
So 40X, well, all of the highways were considered as part of, we were able to, so I think 8 years or 10 years ago, we worked on your traffic model with the previous transportation master plan. And part of that is we did test options with various new connectors in place. So it was considered when we're considering how many traffic volumes. Another thing we did look at is the flyover that is crossing to the north, or will cross to the north in who knows how many years. So we also considered that there may be additional traffic routing through that direction. So yes, it was considered, and that is provided, especially in the background volumes. On the development side, they're directly accessing these roads. They're going to have a larger impact. As you look at the areas to the north and I guess theoretically even to the southwest bypass, there is definitely an impact to traffic, but for the most part, people stay on the highways until they need to get in, rather than maybe using this as an alternate road to not go on Highway 43 around.
Right. So if this was made a truck route, when 40X becomes the truck route and there's there's significant impact to the traffic volume on 116th, you still factored in a 2% growth?
Yeah, 2% at minimum per year. We flex that a little bit to be more on the front end to reflect, and then additional development on top. Generally, what we see with any sort of rerouting is that people go over to the new roads or the new routes or operate under the new assumptions in their conditions, but people often regress back to the quickest path. In this case, this will be more and more urban as you develop around it and won't feel so much like free flow, wide open ring road because there'll be houses on both your right and left as well as commercial areas and people signalized intersections. So there's also going to be likely some decrease in traffic that kind of balances some of that stuff out. But yes, we did look at a variety of those factors and we will be providing, as we progress through this, a full traffic report to administration as well that highlights all the intersection numbers, all the traffic volumes, et cetera.
When you talked about moderate traffic flows currently, was that consideration on 116th or on 132nd as well?
So I would say that the flows are high for the existing infrastructure, but for an arterial roadway, which often is 4 lanes, that's where I would say it's moderate. So they are quite high.
On both 116th and 132nd?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people are making that turn around the corner. We have some traffic counts. Obviously, there's no one going west through, so 116 is higher than 132nd. But we also see that with the growth of the quarter section to the northeast, that becomes a major connector getting down onto the west parts of the city. So we see that westbound left movement grow quite a bit. But certainly that northbound southbound through is greater than the eastbound westbound through.
I think it would be fair to say that the traffic flow from the east heading west will... it'll be many years before we see that grow with that development to the very west of 116th. Right now, the significant flow is to the high school. And so after the high school turnoff, the flow seems to decrease. And so did you do any consideration for having the twinning on with option 1, having the twinning north and south and east only, and if that option of only having one circle of the traffic circle, let's call it, can accommodate the twinning north, south, and to the east?
I'll start. You go after. So you're saying is it an option to twin and have a single lane roundabout,
right?
Essentially.
Yeah.
Short answer. No, you can't have 2 lanes approaching a roundabout if there's only 1 lane to circulate. But what you can do is have slip bays. The problem with that means that in order to make those slip bays, you end up with the same problem as the existing alignment signalized intersection, is you end up impacting that bridge structure. So if I was looking at a single lane roundabout, you'd need a northbound right slip bay, like a channelized right turn that they stay out of the roundabout to get to the high school, to get to those areas. And that would also help keep the flows in a single lane better. But then you're curving outside the roundabout and you're probably going to have a greater impact to that bridge structure. The hardest would be that westbound left movement. There's not really any way you can maybe do 2 lanes approaching, but then you have half a roundabout with 2 lanes. We call them turbo roundabouts, and we did evaluate various options for the roundabout, but I don't think it is viable for this location, just specifically because of which movements are busy. If you had really heavy north-south and not a lot of turning movement, then it certainly makes sense. You have 2 lanes on the side, you progress through the roundabout, and you have 1 lane on the other side, which we've constructed in other regions and has proven to be effective. But to handle turning movements, it can be confusing for drivers, and especially if those are high volume, you start to lose the benefit of a roundabout.
My last question, and I'll go to the queue. The multi-use trail, if you had it in there, I missed, but was there a cost breakdown on that multi-use trail?
So the multi-use trail is not included currently in the cost estimate, but it has been designed for so that it can be added at any time. It
was not in the 12 or the 19?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not in the
it's not in the 12, but it is in the 19? And so do you know the cost within the 19? No. Okay. Councillor Platt.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. Appreciate you bringing up the option 2 there. Just thinking about growth in the future, which one will make more sense will be interesting. But I just want to confirm that they're both the same. Like the traffic circle, the circle itself is both the same in option 1 and 2. It's just the runway coming into it is what's the difference.
That's correct.
Okay. I'm just, when I look at the options, I guess looking at the traffic circle now, just because we went through a pretty hectic December with this, my head goes to snow removal, and I just wonder where would we put snow in that concept when I see that with all the, if we did do that with all the the way that it's lined up right now, it doesn't look like there's a lot of space between the walking paths and the edge of the road. And I'm not sure where we'd put snow. Has there been thoughts put into where we're going to put snow in this design?
I can talk about, so when we've done urban designs, we've done a roundabout in St. Albert before, and they've actually had to accommodate, we've had to accommodate some engagement discussions with their operations to clear the whole entirety of the roundabout. Now, when you're in a more rural atmosphere, there's probably some opportunity to push it outside of the roundabout on the edges, but along the boulevards, you're still going to have the same types of situations for lack of space in the boulevards for snow. But you're likely to have the need for more snow removal in a roundabout situation to be able to clear that circle, and you have less space. Especially, you don't want to pile it in the middle. You can push it to the outsides, but you'll have limited space on that side. But when you get back into under the corridors, the 4-laning, you're just going to have the same situations for lack of space within the boulevards themselves.
Yeah, and I see that as the north leg looks like it's going to be a problem as well for that. And just wondering, for the road right-of-ways, would we have the ability to push those paths farther out, or to have that north lane being a little bit wider just for snow removal capacity in the future? Or is that just a design change, or would we have to get more road right-of-ways as well?
You could absolutely widen the shoulders, especially closer to the roundabout, to give you more opportunity for snow storage. There's certain distances of trails off of roads. You can certainly expand those to the outer edges of the road right away. But the drainage situation, so if you got underground storm facilities to take care of your surface drainage, sometimes you don't have that opportunity in a semi-urban situation where you still want to store that into the roadside ditches as well. And then the further you go out, those bigger the ditches are. So there are opportunities to flex that design with the trail design.
Okay, no, perfect. And my just last question, just in the report, it kind of gives us 3 options, but this option B of the traffic circle isn't in there. And I'm just curious, if we were to receive this for information, it's option 1 is what's being recommended. I'm just curious why that wasn't recommended as one of the options.
Chief Glavin?
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. Yes, certainly the phasing option is one that administration is very comfortable with proceeding as the immediate design. It just wasn't ready at the time of the report writing. So it was supposed to be a part of the initial presentation today, but we sent the wrong one to our team over there.
Okay, no, fair enough. Appreciate that. Thanks.
And just for context, how big is the space between the road and the multi-use trail? Like, I'm thinking it looks like about maybe 5 meters, but I'm just wondering if you have some context of that distance of where that ditch could be, where the snow could go to the trail.
Yeah, I think depending on the closer you are to the roundabout, generally the further the trail goes. What we are looking at, I just looked at the cost estimate. The trail for the $19 million option is about $500,000. And that
plus 40%.
Yeah, I guess plus your 40% contingency. So that would be what you're looking at in the cost. With the cross section, there is some opportunity to save space, whether it be for snow storage or ditches, depending on how you handle curb and gutter on the outside. So if we do a rural cross section or some sort of modified urban cross section, that might buy you more room to allow for, like, if you have a curb and gutter, you don't need the ditch.
That's a great point. So this one is costed at curb and gutter?
So the roundabout is required to have a curb and gutter, so you know where you're driving. If you don't have an outside lane, you're like, okay, I'll just keep going further and further out, and then you're in the ditch. So it has what's called a mountable curb and gutter. So there's curb and gutter all around with outlets to a ditch. So it still controls all the drainage.
Slow down for a sec. The whole thing, explain the curb. Where's the curb and gutter? On the whole project?
In the roundabout, everywhere, yeah. So it's on the inside is a mountable version for trucks. On the outside is, sometimes we call it semi-mountable. Sometimes, depending on the detailed design, it can just be a straight face curb. And then it has curb outlets towards where the drainage would go right now. So that's like breaks in the curb to go into the ditches. I don't have the exact distance right off the top of my head.
That's fine. I'm just thinking of the roundabout at Highway 40. Mm-hmm. There's no curb there.
Yeah, I would have to look at Highway.
Okay.
generally, like when we built the one on Highway 20 in Sylvan, there is curb and gutter around the entirety of the design.
Okay, thanks. Councillor O'Connor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Clayton. My question is on the west leg of the roundabout, and you're showing the 4 lanes. Does that have to be 4 lanes, or are you just preparing for future development? And can we phase that in, and how much would that save if we didn't, and we just went to 2 singles going west and 1 coming back east to the roundabout?
If I look at the phasing image, that's exactly what was there, is it not?
Yeah, short answer, yes. So we would shorten, I totally agree with you, west is the lowest priority until development occurs. So we would shorten that as much as possible. The only issue with completely removing the second ingress and egress lane is now you have a second lane in the roundabout that goes to nowhere. So sometimes people say, okay, I can just leave the roundabout now. My lane has the dotted line, and then 2 people go from the inside lane and outside lane into the same lane. So it's not safe to do so. But what we could do in the stage 1 is just tie that back to 1 lane as soon as possible. And in effect, sometimes people end up operating those low volume legs as 1 leg anyways. If you were to try and do some sort of modification, it would require additional signage, pavement markings, barricades, things like that. And I would say there's likely not to be a significant cost savings on, you know, it's 3 meters less of asphalt, but it's significantly more complications.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, that's all the questions I have. No one else in the queue, so thank you so much for being here today. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'll just check with my colleagues if there's any further questions for administration. Councillor Platt.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. Just curious with administration, if we accept the report for information, is there going to be another touch point for council to come back and talk about specific design components of this, or will it head into the consultation side? Is what I think on the screen it just showed consultation was kind of the next step. So I'm just wondering if council is going to have another touch point, or
Chief Glavin.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Clayton. So right now, what administration would be looking to do is finalize a preliminary design for the roundabout. So as far as our next steps, it would be to, and I guess this would be good for us to elaborate a little bit on, is if you wanted us to go for the lowest cost phased roundabout, or if you wanted to go for more twinning. So we're doing 2 projects here for design right now. We're doing the design of all of 116th Street twinning, and we're doing the design of 132nd Avenue twinning. And then we have the roundabout, or this intersection right now, that we're doing the design of. If it were council's desire to do more twinning, we could do it as part of this project, or we could do the phased option, which has less of the twinning as part of it in the initial project.
So I guess on that, Mayor Clayton, I don't know if we want to debate on that today, but for me, I like the idea of option 2. I think with that option 2, it still gives a double lane roundabout. It sets us up for growth in that area. That the traffic impact to me is.
When you mean option 2, do you mean the
roundabout option 2, where it's the.
So it's actually option 1, or do you mean the
option 1B? I guess is that
like the finalized one or the phased in one?
The phased in one, like the 1B, where it's not fully built out yet. I guess when I look at it, I don't think we need to queue back 800 meters each direction on that. I don't think we need to queue back as far the other sides. I don't know if that's what's hurting that intersection today. It's just getting traffic is stopped because there's a red light. And for industry moving, you get 3 or 4 big trucks and you're heading north, and now you can't even turn right onto 116th or 132nd.
And for my own knowledge, Councillor Platt, is your thought? I agree. Phase 1 is where we should be spending some focus right now, and conversation should be around the phasing of option 1. Is your consideration including widening of 132nd? Like back to 100 Ave?
Yeah, I think if we did 132nd to the lane improvements, I think if I understood, there was a little bit less on option, well, I guess this option up on the screen here. It only went back 150 meters in each direction, was that?
So it could go back, the consideration for administration could be back as far as to 108th.
Yeah, and 132nd, that would probably alleviate it. But I think maybe I'm wrong with the administration. I think they're looking at, that's already in the queue, that they're looking at twinning engineering to go back to 108th already.
Chief Glavin.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Clayton. As part of the greater project of twinning, we are looking at doing that entire 132nd quarter, I think, to, I want to say 104th Street or something to that effect.
Sorry, what do you mean when you say you're looking at doing that?
That is what we are doing at the
It's
20.
already funded.
Correct. Council funded that project.
For when?
That's currently, I think, in progress or will be shortly.
I think just to clarify, just the preliminary design of the twinning has
Okay.
been funded.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is part of our scope. We're twinning all the way back to 103rd Street, twinning all the way down to where the 100th Ave gap is, like 104th Ave, as well as the additional twinning further south in this section here from the 84th Avenue to the South City limit. What the costs have been considering are just the intersection costs. So the intersection plus either 1.6 kilometers or, like Councillor Platt was saying, only a few hundred meters in each direction. None of the costs we've presented today have included anything outside that footprint.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess just to throw that on the table, that would be my preference. And I don't know if that's making a motion on there, or if you want to have some debate on it, or.
Yeah, I guess back to Chief Glavin's comments. Other than receiving this report for information, what do you want from council today?
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. If council's comfort level is the phasing of option 1, which is the roundabout, that is what administration will proceed with for design.
So then, yeah, rather than taking the motion that's in the staff report, administrative report, I would amend that motion, Councillor Platt, based on your conversation, to receive the report, direct administration to come back with additional information on the phasing of option 1, the roundabout option. And that should cover everything, I think. You come back with more information on the phasing. You're already coming back with more on the widening. Chief Glavin?
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I think as far as information, I don't think there's anything else on that. I think it would be us to prepare the preliminary design for phase 1 of the roundabout, for the phasing option. We could, I think I'm comfortable with the wording of a phased roundabout for direction to us. I think that's clear.
I'm not sure if anybody else is in queue. Did you want me to make?
No, go for it.
Okay, so I would just make a motion that council direct administration to work on phase 1 roundabout phasing option. Is that roundabout phasing option? Is that
Option 1, roundabout phasing.
option 1 roundabout phasing plan? And I guess just my other question on that, back to the getting maybe too far into the weeds, but I'm not sure I feel like we need to be doing double bike lanes on each side of that thing all the way back. Like I'm okay with that coming in on 132nd and around a corner 116th and to get around the traffic circle at some point. For me, I feel that those are things we can add as we go. I just don't want to see us putting those there at this point. I don't know if there's a lot of value till there's connectivity in those areas, and as those levies come in, then I think that's a great uses of our levies as we twin that road and build those out for connectivity. But we're going to have a path that starts and ends to somewhere that's really not going to have a lot of, to me, usefulness at this point. Appreciate the capital be lower today, but we don't know when that capital is going to be needed. So I'm just, does that need to be a friendly amendment on top of that, or is that just something administration would take? And it's just my thoughts, not all of council's, but.
Chief Glavin?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Clayton. I'm just going to confirm with our consultant, but I don't believe the phased included those.
It didn't.
That's correct. For the option 1 phased roundabout, there's no multi-use trail included. For the ultimate design, we do have it included, and it is off the right of way, and even then could certainly be staged at whatever time it is appropriate.
No, appreciate that. Thanks.
So there is a motion in your queue, opportunity for questions for administration or discussion or debate on the motion. Just checking online. We're good. And seeing no one in the queue, I'll call the question. Councillor Auger in favor. And that carries unanimously. All right. Thank you for being here today, and thanks for your information.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Nice to
much.
meet you all.
Presentation.
And now look for my colleagues, Councillor Thiessen, if you wouldn't mind making a motion to go in camera.
Certainly, Mayor Clayton, I would move that we go into camera.
Great. Thanks for that. Call the question. And that carries unanimously. We'll just give ourselves a moment to get set up.